This inquiry has stemmed from an observation that most work on illustration agencies' websites and the current portfolios on the Association of Illustrators website contain artwork that can look very similar and appears to have been mainly created via digital drawing apps. A lot of the imagery looks simplistic, uses a bright colour palette, has little texture or sense of gesture, very little tone, and can often appear to be very emotionally remote and doesn't invite you to look or think about it any further. I see very few examples of images that link to my own way of working, which leads me to question where my place is in the current illustration industry. As an illustrator that is very involved in the use of materials when creating work, I'm now interested in looking outside of my own practice to investigate and compare artists that use digital drawing apps with artists that use actual physical materials to see how they compare when analysed, what marks they make and how the images can be read by the viewer. I would like to see what digital apps offer and also what they may lack. I'm hoping that this inquiry will lead to me questioning my assumptions about digital art and gain a better and clearer understanding of what it is when viewing images that I find engaging and compelling. The idea for the research has begun with looking at writers that have focused on discussing and investigating artists' use of physical materials, including the idea of the accidental when making art and how certain materials and gestures can be manipulated in order to add expression to their work. Jackson Pollock and Francis Bacon's work are used as two examples that illustrate the expressive qualities of paint. The personal choice of tools and scale of work and the discussions that can be prompted by the artist's use of marks and also their choice of materials. The second part of the research has focused on digital images that have been produced via drawing apps and how they are seen by some as a threat to more conventional ways of drawing and also as less special as they are easily reproduced. This section raises a lot of questions about who uses drawing apps, the quality of the work produced, and how these apps are now being seen as just another set of tools to be manipulated by artists. Even though it has been very difficult to find any credible contemporary artists that use drawing apps other than David Hockney. The third section of the research and the reading has looked at how illustration has been affected by the use of stock imagery and digitally produced drawings, and also how illustration is discussed and analysed by itself and others, and that it can sometimes be viewed as too style-led and not have enough content. The first two pieces of work that I would like to compare are a drawing by a contemporary London-based illustrator called David Lupton and an iPad drawing by David Hockney. Whilst each of the images are very different, they both are highly competent and use a variety of visible marks. Lupton's work is very clearly drawn by hand and suggests that he has a strong connection to the materials he has used in order to try and convey a very specific atmosphere. The drawing is in black and white and is of an abattoir. He has used the depth of the tones to suggest drama and has left some areas unclear, which adds to the general mood of the image. David Hockney's iPad drawing of a Yorkshire landscape is very different to Lupton's drawing, and whilst it may not have such a strong sense of atmosphere, it is more about a straightforward representation of a place. It does contain a lot of marks, textures, tones and colours that are more apparent than in his other digital drawings. David Lupton has agreed to be interviewed via email, and it will be interesting to find out more about his use of media, how his work has developed over time, and how far, if at all, computer-aided design plays a role in the making of his imagery. As all of his work seems to be handmade, I am keen to find out why, and also his opinions about the possible use of digital drawing within his own work and that of other current illustrators. The second pair of artists may be Jenny Saville and Susan Murtaugh's work. Both have produced portrait paintings that offer a lot in terms of mark making and colour, but I'm hesitant about comparing a very well-known and respected fine artist to a much less well-known digital artist. But it has been nearly impossible to find another well-known contemporary artist that has used digital drawing apps to create their own drawings.